A senior Guyana government official dismisses the international community's criticism of the country's political climate. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, October 3rd. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Karen Cummins says the agitation by some international partners surrounding Guyana's current political climate is uncalled for. She says now that President David Granger has named a date for the polls and the opposition accepting that date, March 2nd, 2020, there's clearly no need for sanctions against the country over elections. We get more in this NCN News report.
The Organization of American States, the Commonwealth, as well as diplomats from the United States, European Union and United Kingdom called on government to adhere to its constitutional mandate following the December 21 no-confidence motion and subsequent court rulings. Speaking at a news conference, Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Karen Cummins stated that the positions taken by the foreign powers were largely based on misperceptions of the real political situation in Guyana.
Because what happens, people like to take first jump. And so our opposition leader would have been, sending out signals, proffering different statements and so forth. So what you've heard of first, that's what you may want to react to. But when they would have looked and see Guyana, we're going ahead with our development agenda and, it's business as usual, so to speak.
The minister said the government is making a concerted effort to obey the rule of law while noting that everyone is free to express their opinion. However, the foreign minister said it must not be done at the level of interference in the internal affairs of one's country.
So, I don't think we need sanctions at this point in time because we're very peaceful citizens. We strive to ensure that we don't interfere in other person's territory. We maintain our territorial integrity and our sovereignty.
Among the calls by the international partners were for the president to proclaim an election date at the earliest possible time. He has since done so, naming March 2, 2020 as the official date for regional and general elections, and maintains that the government will continue to adhere to the Constitution in executing its mandate.
Meantime, a final decision is yet to be made about who the ruling coalition will put forward as its prime ministerial candidate in the upcoming polls. President Granger skirted around the issue when questioned by journalists on Thursday about whether leader of the Alliance for Change, AFC, Kemraj Ramjatan, would be the pick. He said the issue is up for discussion as a partnership for national unity. The APNU and the AFC seek to update the 2015 Cummings-Byrd Accord signed before the May 2015 elections, which states that the AFC selects the Prime Minister. The party has already voted to replace current Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu on the slate for the upcoming elections.
I cannot say now who I'll be running with, but we know that I can assure you that the two groups are reviewing the 2015 Accord, and we hope to come up with a revised accord.
But broadly speaking, would that person come necessarily from the AFC?
Well, it is not prudent to anticipate the outcome of negotiations.
Still on the political scene, Belize Prime Minister Dean Barrow has announced he will step down before the next elections, which are due next year. Barrow is now in his third term as the country's leader. He says he will consult with his colleagues after the party's convention in February next year before deciding on the date of his departure.
I really have to talk to colleagues in cabinet once the contest is over. The convention date is February 9th. The budget is usually read on about March 8th or so. Should I stay for the budget, at least since we would have been at the time of the convention right in the middle of crafting it? Is it fair to leave that to somebody who's new? And if I stay for the budget, then do I go the 1st of April once the new financial year starts? Do I wait a little longer? It really is going to be dependent on what colleagues say after the convention is over.
Now, when he demits office, the new leader of the United Democratic Party will be the country's new prime minister. The choice is between Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber and the Belmopan area representative John Saldivar. Barrow says he has already made his choice for successor, but will not disclose just yet.
I don't expect a third entrant. I think that the two declared aspirants will end up being the ones to contest. I will not ever publicly disclose how I'm going to vote. I already know how I'm going to vote, and it is a matter about which I've spoken to several of my colleagues. But I don't think it would be fair for me to publicly say I'm supporting one or the other.
The Jamaica government has withdrawn a motion to extend the exemption of cabinet documents from public disclosure from 20 to 70 years. The proposal was met with heavy criticism from the media and human rights groups when it was tabled in Parliament earlier this week in an amendment to the Access of Information Act. On Thursday, Minister of Foreign Affairs Kamina Johnson-Smith sought to explain the reason for the extension.
70 years is long. That is undeniable that it is long. The issue is that it wasn't plucked from the air. There was a deep consideration about not only the period of time that applies to proprietary information. The timing for patents and copyrights, etc., normally run upwards 50, 70, 90 years.
Staying in Jamaica, the Ministry of Education has banned the importation of heartburn medication Zantac. The move follows global reports that the drug could contain small levels of a potential cancer-causing chemical linked to liver damage. Several retailers in the United States have also suspended the sale of the drug. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says government will take steps to protect the public's health.
Don't expect that doctors or pharmacists are going to continue to push a particular drug that clearly there is a concern around and there's an advisor that is out there. The distributor of the product, who represents the manufacturer, as is normally the case in these circumstances, would have been fully aware, based on what is happening, and aware of the recall in the other markets. And that distributor we would normally communicate with in terms of ensuring that what is in the trade is appropriately dealt with. We're advising persons not to use and physicians not to prescribe based on the information that we have, and also the suspension of importation, further importation.
Over to Nassau, where Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis has announced government's intention to acquire Shantytown property in hurricane-battered Abaco, which was home to many migrants. Speaking in Parliament on Wednesday, he said the lands will be compulsorily acquired. He also gave an update on the death toll from the hurricane and work being done to help the country recover. More in this report from Guardian News Network's Kyle Walkin.
As no-bill zones, the Minnis administration pledged to eradicate shantytowns through the acquisition of those blocks of land that have been homes to unregulated communities over the years.
We will eradicate shanty towns and return law to our country. I've heard noise, and I will report on this also next week, Mr. Speaker. I've heard noise about the property of the shanty towns, but I've informed the Attorney General to compulsorily acquire the mud, pitch and tea, sandbanks, and other related areas.
The law allows for the compulsory purchase of land according to the Constitution. The compensation for the land is based on the market value, among other factors. Several shantytowns in Abaco were destroyed during the passage of Hurricane Dorian, which decimated parts of that island and Grand Bahama. Addressing Parliament for the first time since the monster storm, Minnis also addressed illegal migration generally. Minnis said the government will take to the air to ensure that more illegal communities are not established.
I will inform the House of the use of helicopters versus drones to continue to monitor our borders and our land so as to avoid any influx of illegal.
While officials expect the death toll to increase, the official number of people found dead in the wake of the storm stood at 60 on Wednesday. Authorities say more than 400 remain missing. The government has earmarked more than $120 million to restore critical infrastructure, enhance social welfare, remove debris, support small businesses, and provide temporary housing, among other things.
You're watching Caribbean Newsline. Venezuelans are now required to have visas to enter the Dutch Caribbean island of Aruba. However, the requirement will not apply to Venezuelans who already have visas for United States, Canada, United Kingdom, or Ireland. A government statement said the decision was taken because of the worsening situation in the Spanish-speaking nation, as well as the alarming increase in the frequency of irregular migration to neighboring countries. Now, according to the United Nations, Venezuela's economic collapse has unleashed the biggest migratory crisis in recent Latin American history, spurring more than 4 million people to emigrate. Chile, Peru, and Ecuador have all imposed new entry restrictions for Venezuelans in recent months. Still to come, Caribbean sugar producers make a case for the protection of the industry. Stay with us. We have more news after this.
We went round Cape Horn, and then there was, the possibility of some options opening up for us to be able to pick up some ground. So I decided to go for it.
Turning up and going up past the Falklands, it got a bit busy. There's only been a few times in my life that it's been that rough.
Tell us a little bit about why you like this practice, why you're good at it, et cetera, and a little history of it.
All right, well, the reason we like this area of practice is, frankly, because we like the people who do the type of work that, unfortunately, leads them to be hurt so often. These are hardworking men and women who every day go out, put on their pants, go to work, and aren't afraid to sweat. And that really is very much like a lot of the people who work at this firm. None of us were born with silver spoons in our mouths. All of us grew up as hardworking people.
Caribbean sugar producers met with regional agriculture ministers on Thursday to make a case for the protection of the industry. They are seeking to get plantation white sugar sold on the CARICOM market. Director of the Belize Sugar Industry and Belize's representative on the Sugar Association of Caribbean, Mac McLachlan, says the demand for sugar in the region is about 300,000 tons. 200,000 tons of that is imported from outside CARICOM, even though CARICOM produces up to 500,000 tons. McLachlan is therefore calling for the CARICOM sugar market to be regulated.
Is it possible to use sugars produced in the CARICOM in industrial processing? The answer, very clearly from the presentations we're hearing today, is yes. The question is, can we now move forward in both an economic sense and make sure that we're able to sell those sugars at long-term pricing that takes volatility away from industrial users of sugar, but also that the regulatory environment supports that. And we're asking for one simple thing, and that's that under the CET, under the Common External Tariff, that white sugar is placed on the list of ineligible products, ineligible for differentiated tariff duties by different member states. That's what brown sugar, that's the same position of brown sugar in the region.
regional fisheries officials have also been outlining their concerns to the agriculture ministers. Executive Director of the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, Milton Horton, says there are several matters that need to be addressed. Jamaica's Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park is at risk of losing the UNESCO World Heritage Site designation it earned back in 2015. That's because of coffee farmers' continued slash and burn practices. Now, the Jamaica Conservation Development Trust, which manages the national park, says it has proof of the catastrophic clearing of land in various sections of the park. Deputy Chairman Adam Hyde says the forest is being cut daily with chainsaws and there is also evidence of fires. He says UNESCO is concerned about the Trust's ability to protect the national park, and he says the organization risks losing the status if there is no protection. Hyde explained that most of the coffee farmers were there long before the area was classified as a protected area, and many of them owned their lands, so it complicates the situation. He says the agencies involved have yet to approach the situation with a view to finding a rational, practicable solution. Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley has signaled her country's commitment to meeting the global deadline to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by half. Addressing a renewable energy conference on Wednesday, she said by next year Barbados must submit its nationally determined contributions for seeking to reduce its contribution to greenhouse gases emissions by 2030. She acknowledged that it is an ambitious deadline, but she said time is running out.
We recognize that there are some carve-outs with respect to cruise ships and airlines, but we equally recognize that we live in a world now where multinational corporations will, at their peril, remain outside of the loop with respect to the changes in technology that are absolutely required to move not just Barbados, but the entire world to as close to a fossil fuel-free existence as possible.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, disappointment for Jamaica and the Bahamas at the World Championships. Stay with us. Sport is next.
When you think of what we went through with Hurricane Irma, you had to be able to recognize what are the things we need to do to cope with the aftermath. The psychological trauma, to me, is probably the most telling on a lot of people.
Preparedness is the key. So when people are prepared, when people have what their resources in terms of how they can cope with the disaster, they're better able to be able to return to their normal life. They're better able to make decisions that are informed for themselves and for their family, and then for their community. Be ready. Look, listen, and link.
Horsemen know it was the best option at that point to take the man to get him help safely. Just because you don't understand horses, don't be so quick to judge.
So first of all, I understand horses because I grew up competing for 20 years. The smart thing to do would have been for the one officer to hand his horse to the other guy, and he could have ponied the one horse, and then he could have taken custody of the gentleman. Period. End of discussion.
I'm Jairo Grant. As you see, I'm preparing for the parade, 65 years of our Carnival of Aruba. So I'm creating this with a lot of love for our Carnival. That's what we like to do, and that's what we do for the tourists and for our local people.
No. Take him back? No.
Papi.
Papi chulo, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I took him back and it was the worst ever.
No, you see that's the problem. You know he wasn't good in the first place. You can't take him back.
No, he was good in the starting, and it's like you open the book and the story does like once upon a time, it catch you, and then when he went and did that, and then.
Jamaican 110-meter hurdlist Omar McLeod says a hamstring problem led to him crashing out of Wednesday's final at the World Champs. The defending champion fell on approach to the final hurdle, missing out on a chance of a podium finish. TVJ's Keon Reno reports.
Risk of 13.08 seconds to win semi-final 2 and enter the championship round as the fastest man. Omar McLeod looked set to cement himself as the best Caribbean sprint hurdler in World Championship history and become the first non-American to win back-to-back world titles in the 110-meter hurdles.
Away first time, and Holloway got a terrific start. He's the leader at this early stage. McLeod as well. It's Holloway from McLeod. Shabenkov on the near side as well. Still just Grant Holloway. McLeod trying to get back. McLeod's gone. Grant Holloway comes through to take it. Shabenkov the silver. Martino Lagarde the bronze.
McLeod later disclosed that he started to feel his left hamstring during warm-up, and it eventually did him in.
My left hamstring grabbed me in the pit first at the start, at the beginning of the race. I kind of felt it in the warm-up, but I was just like, you know, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Came out, felt it, and I was more concerned about the hamstring than technique or anything. I was just like, try your very best to just get through it. That didn't happen. I gave it my all, man. I showed up here ready. I showed up and had in the back of my mind that I was going to be prepared. I didn't want to come here half-assed. You know what I mean? I came and I showed up, and, you know, it was just God's will. This is what happens, man. But I'm very proud of myself. I made a lot of sacrifices this year. This year has been really up and down, and you know what I mean? I'm very proud. I'm very proud. Disappointing, but it is what it is.
The American Grant Holloway, who clocked 13.10 to take gold, said he was never perturbed entering the final.
No, not really. I stayed within my lane, my space, and I knew when we got in the final together, it's just one of the things, you know, you got to keep your focus and just execute each hurdle. And the person who keeps their nerves composed the whole time is the person that will win.
Meanwhile, Bahamian Shawnee Miller-Weibo missed out on her first World Championship gold in the finals of the women's 400-meter on Thursday. The Olympic champion was stunned by Salwa Eid Nasser of Bahrain, who powered her way in the final 100-meter stretch to win gold with a world-leading 48.14 seconds. Miller-Weibo came in second in a time of 48.37, while Jamaica's Sherika Jackson ran her personal best to take the bronze in a time of 49.47 seconds.
Miller-Weibo tends to go out hard, so too Salwa Eid Nasser. This is a great race in prospect. Phyllis Francis, the defending champion. She's not going to relinquish this crown easily, but look at the smooth running of Salwa Eid Nasser down the back straight. She's poetry in motion, and she's up a fraction on Shawnee Miller-Weibo at the moment. It's the defending champion, Phyllis Francis, and Salwa Eid Nasser's coming through. Miller-Weibo needs to find something here over the last 100 meters. This is absolutely incredible from Salwa Eid Nasser. Now comes Miller-Weibo. It's getting closer. Remember, neither of them have won this before, but Salwa Eid Nasser is not to be denied. What a performance, what a time. She beats the Olympic champion.
Switching sports, the Barbados Trident successfully chased a modest target at the Queen's Park Oval set by Trinbago Knight Riders to keep their hopes of a top two finish in the round-robin stage of the Caribbean Premier League alive. Johnson Charles struck 5 fours and 2 sixes in a top score of 55 from 47 balls and shared a vital opening of 54 with England opener Alex Hales. Tridents bowled impressively as they restricted TKR to 134 for 8 of 20 overs in the first innings after they chose to bat on a sluggish pitch. Ireland's Harry Gurney returned the flattening flattering figures of 2 for 14 from his allotted 4 overs to be the pick of the Trident's bowlers and earned the Player of the Match award. In reply, Hales made 33 his best score of the season to give the innings early momentum before Charles took charge to keep the Tridents on track for their 5th win. And former South African left-hander J.P. Dumini and Ashley Nurse kept their nerve to collect the 7 runs needed from the final over bowled by TKR and new captain West Indies white ball captain Kieron Pollard without much alarm. The Knight Riders are now without a win in their last 5 matches after starting the season with 4 straight victories. They now need to beat runaway leaders Guyana Amazon Warriors in the final match of the round-robin phase on Friday at the Guyana National Stadium to edge back above the Tridents and reclaim 2nd place. Meanwhile, the unbeaten Amazon Warriors will not be taking Jamaica Talawas for granted in their clash on Thursday evening at Providence. They will be seeking their 9th straight victory with the hope of cementing their spot in the final, while the Talawas will be needing much-needed points to move from the bottom of the table. In this report by HGP's Jaden Samuels, Warriors head coach Johan Botha is confident of his side's chances, while his Jamaican counterpart Mark O'Donnell laments over the Talawas' performance this season.
CPL approaches the most important phase, so it is for the Amazon Warriors, who will play Jamaica Talawas on Thursday before taking on the Trinbago Knight Riders on Friday to wrap up their home games. Winning 8 games on the trot this time around, but having lost the finals on 4 occasions, the Warriors will be looking to tread carefully as they seek their first CPL title.
Now we know which 4 teams will be there coming towards the end of the tournament, but you know, we can't look too far ahead. We still want to play good cricket. We want to, you know, compete with Jamaica tomorrow. We still respect them as a team. They obviously do have a good team, and things might not have gone the way they wanted, but you know, we still want to keep playing the way we've played, and like I said, our guys are really looking forward to playing at home again.
Meantime, the Jamaica Talawas, apart from the injuries which has shaken up the overall performance, will be looking to beat the Warriors at home and salvage their much-needed pride. Starting the tournament this year as one of the teams to beat, the Talawas will play their final game to end their worst outing in CPL history.
We definitely didn't play some good cricket. At times we have the games to win and we let the opposition back, and in this tournament you can't afford to do that. Once you let the opposition in back, then you end up on the back foot, and once you start losing, and sometimes it can become a habit, and I think that's what has happened to us this season.
And that's the Sports Day. Thus, we'll be right back.
I went in the woods to find a good spot to film them, and I just lost my position. I didn't put M&Ms to track my trail on the way back. Foolish mistake. Yeah, I hear traffic behind me, but that could be miles away. If I don't make it out here alive, tell him I'm a lover. Just gotta be strong.
Preparation is a big part of being disaster ready. It's a major part of Tobago's emergency response efforts. The Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, is one of those key units tasked with responding to emergencies from within communities. Now, CERT's response capabilities in East Tobago are set to be boosted as its Speyside Centre is being reconstructed.
Again, the major developments of this day: Guyana's Foreign Affairs Minister dismisses the international community's criticism of the country's political climate. And in sports, former champion Omar McLeod blames a hamstring problem for his disqualification in the 110 hurdles final at the World Championships. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports round the clock, subscribe to CanadaNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good night.